We live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
Washington warned U.S. citizens to exercise increased caution when traveling to Hong Kong as protesters announced 3 days of new demonstrations at the city's airport.
The UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change warned that efforts to limit global warming while feeding a booming population could be wrecked without swift and sweeping changes to how we use the land we live on.
President Trump consoles victims of the mass shootings in Ohio and Texas, but despite promising a message of unity, he continues to rail at opponents while facing protests that his rhetoric on race has fueled extremism.
Manila Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Domagoso on Thursday said he plans to convert Manila into a smart city to better serve his constituents.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. Washington warned U.S. citizens to exercise increased caution when traveling to Hong Kong as protesters announced 3 days of new demonstrations at the city's airport.
Luckily for me, I have full gear, so I have a mask, which is quite protective for me. So I just help all of the people to get away from the smoke, because lots of people do not have enough equipment to prevent all of this. So what I can do is try to help them get out of there. What to say, because after all of this, we have to get used to it, because most of the policemen, they just ignore everything. They do not have warning. They just keep throwing the tear gas to us. So I'm not surprised they did that.
When I see the police, they act very violent. They
aggressive.
Aggressive. They want to just hit you with their full equipment. And as you can see, most of us are only having the mask and very simple this ice mask. And it's not really helpful for tear gas, but that's one tear gas for now.
The financial hub has been rocked by 2 months of unrest, initially triggered by opposition to a planned law that would have allowed extraditions to mainland China. The demonstrations have evolved into a wider movement for democratic reform that has seriously disrupted the city with sometimes violent protests. On Thursday, the U.S. State Department warned citizens to exercise increased caution, upgrading its previous advice to exercise normal precautions. The warning notes that demonstrations in the city have been mostly peaceful, but some have turned confrontational or resulted in violent clashes. Images of clashes between masked protesters and police firing tear gas in Hong Kong streets have made global headlines, and on Tuesday, China gave its sternest warning yet to the pro-democracy demonstrators. But the protests are expected to continue, with demonstrators planning 3 days of rallies at the city's airport from Friday afternoon. On Monday, a general strike called by protesters saw more than 160 flights canceled and transport in the city paralyzed. Hong Kong's flagship carrier Cathay Pacific did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the planned airport rallies.
As Hong Kong buckles under increasingly violent clashes between protesters and police in a deepening political crisis, hundreds gathered at the Harbour Front on Wednesday night for a markedly different kind of protest, a laser show. Both police and protesters have used intense beams of light against each other, turning often violent episodes into surreal scenes fit for a disco or science fiction. Demonstrators have aimed lasers towards riot police, irritating them by flashing at their faces as well as their surveillance cameras to counter facial recognition. Police also used the lights to befuddle and identify protesters and have flashed strong lights at journalists who accused them of obstructing their reporting. On Tuesday, a student was arrested for possession of an offensive weapon after he was found carrying 10 laser pointers, sparking a late-night protest outside a police station, which officers dispersed with tear gas. In response, Hong Kongers initiated a so-called laser show at the Harbourfront Space Museum, euphemistically inviting others to stargaze together, which laser pointers can also be used for. Protesters aimed their laser pens at the dome-shaped museum, which closed early in anticipation of the protest, turning its facade and nearby trees into dizzying, frenetically dancing lights of green, purple, and red as the crowds erupted into cheers.
A new dire warning on climate change. It comes with a radical call and how we need to help handle it. It's a new UN report that says all of us humans need to adopt a vegan or plant-based diet to stop environmental damage. And it says our current food system accounts for 30% of destructive greenhouse gases. The report also warns that without switching to healthy plant-based diets, we will need 56% more food to feed the nearly 10 billion people expected on Earth in the year 2050.
A 5.9 magnitude earthquake that rattled Taiwan on Thursday killed one woman and caused temporary power outages that affected over 10,000 homes, authorities said. Tremors were felt across the island and high rises in Taipei swayed as the quake struck off the northeastern coast at dawn, waking sleeping residents. Excuse me. A 60-year-old woman was killed outside the capital after a closet fell on her during the quake, the National Fire Agency said. More than 10,000 houses around the greater Taipei area and neighboring Yilan lost power, while rail authorities suspended some train services in Yilan, affecting thousands of passengers. Taiwan lies near the junction of two tectonic plates and is regularly hit by quakes. In April, a 6.1 magnitude earthquake struck eastern Hualien, disrupting traffic and injuring 17 people. Taiwan's worst tremor in recent decades was a 7.6 magnitude quake in 1999 that killed around 2,400 people.
Now, Taiwan was already on alert for Typhoon Lakima, which is gaining momentum and is expected to buffet the island with powerful winds and heavy rains through to Friday. The Central Weather Bureau on Thursday issued a land warning for severe Typhoon Lakima, advising residents in Taipei, New Taipei, Keelung, Hualien, and Yilan to prepare for strong winds and heavy rains. Ships operating in waters north and east of Taiwan should also be on alert for high waves, according to the Bureau. As of 8 a.m. on Thursday, Lakima was located about 520 kilometers east-southeast of Taipei, moving at a speed of 15 kilometers per hour in north-northwesterly direction, according to the Bureau data. It had strengthened into a severe typhoon, packing maximum sustained winds of 184 kilometers per hour with gusts of up to 227 kilometers per hour.
A volcano near Tokyo has erupted for the first time in 40 years, throwing ash and smoke nearly 2 kilometers into the sky and sparking warnings not to approach the mountain. Mount Asama, some 140 kilometers that's 90 miles northwest of the Japanese capital, exploded overnight and prompted the National Meteorological Agency to raise its alert level to 3 out of 5, meaning people should avoid the crater. The agency warned that large rocks and fast-moving flows of hot gas could affect a radius of 4 kilometers from the crater and that nearby towns could be hit by smaller rocks and ash depending on prevailing winds. An agency official told AFP on Thursday that gas was still being thrown into the air, but at a normal level. "We don't see activity picking up," he said. Mount Asama last erupted in June 2015. There were no injuries in the small eruption.
In other news, Malaysian divers scoured a river, joining a large team hunting for a Franco-Irish teenager with learning difficulties who vanished from a rainforest resort. Nora Quarren went missing on Sunday morning after checking in with her family to the Dusun Resort about an hour from the capital, Kuala Lumpur. Family members said they found the window of her room open in the morning without any trace of her. The 15-year-old lives in London and is the daughter of a Franco-Irish couple. Let's listen in.
Tadi ada ditolak oleh bomba. Dia tak dapat lah.
Siapa?
Berusaha tak kira at any time, what time, no, we will never stop. Kalau although we treat this case as we classify this case as a missing person, but we are not ruling out any possibility. That's why the process of investigation, this investigation is very big, very wide.
But we must remain hopeful, and we ask everyone to keep Nora in their thoughts and to continue to support the ongoing search for her. Nora is still missing, and she is very vulnerable, and we need to do everything we can to bring her home.
Now, her family suspect foul play, but the Malaysian government has stressed police do not believe she was abducted and are calling for an end to speculation about her disappearance. As the hunt entered the 4th day, a small team of divers searched a river running through the forest near the resort. Helicopter and 2 drones, sniffer dogs, and 214 people from various government agencies had already been deployed in the hunt for the girl. Nora, the daughter of an Irish-French couple who have lived in London for about 20 years, arrived at the resort in a nature reserve near Seremban, 39 miles south of the capital, Kuala Lumpur, on Saturday for a 2-week stay. Her father raised the alarm at 8 o'clock local time on Sunday after she was discovered missing with her window in the bedroom open. Che Zakaria said the girl's disappearance was currently classified as a missing person case and was not being treated as an abduction. But one of the girl's relatives told the Lucy Blackman Trust, a British charity that supports the families of British people who go missing abroad, that the family suspected foul play. In their statement, the family said the teenager was not like other 15-year-olds. They said Nora is a child with special needs and has learning and developmental disabilities which make her especially vulnerable, and they fear for her safety.
Canadian police said Wednesday they had discovered the bodies of 2 men believed to be fugitive teens who allegedly murdered 3 people last month, ending a nearly 3-week nationwide manhunt. Cam McLeod, 19, and Briar Skimagelsky, 18, were wanted over the murders of an Australian man and his American girlfriend, as well as of a Canadian university professor. Initially, the pair were reported missing themselves after their car was found torched in British Columbia, but police then discovered the 3rd body, and the Vancouver teens were named as formal suspects.
This morning, at approximately 10 a.m., RCMP officers located 2 male bodies in the dense brush within 1 kilometer from where the items were found. This is approximately 8 kilometers from where the burnt vehicle was located. At this time, we believe these are the bodies of the 2 suspects wanted in connection with the homicides in British Columbia. An autopsy is being scheduled in Winnipeg to confirm their identities and to determine their cause of death. While there were no confirmed sightings since July 22nd, we never gave up in our search efforts, following up on every lead, considering all options, and using every available resource. We knew that we needed just to find that one piece of evidence that could move this search forward. On Friday, August 2nd, that one critical piece of evidence was found. Items directly linked to the suspects were located on the shoreline of the Nelson River. Following this discovery, we were at last able to narrow down the search. We immediately sent in specialized RCMP teams to begin searching nearby high-probability areas.
The Royal Canadian Mounted Police said the bodies had been found in dense brush in the central province of Manitoba. The pair were wanted over the murders of Australian Lucas Fowler, 23, and American China Dees, 24, who were discovered shot to death on July 15 along a highway in British Columbia. The victims' bodies were discovered on July 15 on a remote highway in northern British Columbia. 4 days later, investigators found the burned-out gray Dodge pickup McLeod and Schmigelski were traveling in and said the teens were missing. Kevin Hackett, the RCMP Assistant Commissioner in British Columbia, said the investigation is not yet closed, even though authorities believe the suspects were the killers. He said it will be difficult to determine what the motive was for the slayings, but authorities are sure the 2 killings are connected.
Cocaine worth millions of dollars has washed up on a New Zealand beach, with police urging the public to hand in any more packages that may turn up. Police were called to Bethel's Beach in West Auckland on Wednesday evening when packages of the drug were found along the shoreline. Detective Inspector Colin Parmenter estimated the street value at 3 million New Zealand dollars or $2 million US. Local media reported the packages were contained in netting, and the presence of shells indicated they had been at sea for some time. It's not the first time a large amount of drugs has been found on a New Zealand beach. In 2016, 500 kilograms of methamphetamine with a street value of nearly 500 million New Zealand dollars was found on a beach in the far north of the country.
India on Thursday dismissed Pakistan's alarmist reaction to its decision to strip Kashmir of its autonomy and warned its nuclear-armed rival against interfering in what it insisted was a purely internal matter. India revoked Kashmir's special status in the constitution on Monday and brought it under its direct rule, escalating tensions with Pakistan, which has a competing claim to the Muslim-majority region. Pakistan responded by downgrading its diplomatic ties with India, announcing that it would expel the Indian envoy and suspend trade as the row between the neighbors deepened. The countries have fought 2 wars over Kashmir. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry said its decision was entirely the internal affair of India, seeking to interfere in that jurisdiction by invoking an alarmist vision of the region will never succeed. New Delhi added that the move would boost economic development in the Himalayan region. The government of India regrets the steps announced by Pakistan and would urge that country to review them so that normal channels for diplomatic communications are preserved, the statement added. The diplomatic spat came as a petition was filed with the Supreme Court by an activist challenging the curfew in Kashmir, which was imposed to suppress any unrest in response to the loss of autonomy. University professors, business leaders, and activists are among the 560 people rounded up by authorities and taken to makeshift detention centers, some during midnight raids in the cities of Srinagar, Baramulla, and Gurez. The Press Trust of India and the Indian Express reported. Tens of thousands of Indian troops are enforcing the lockdown, which includes no internet or phone services, and are allowing only limited movement on streets, usually bustling with tourists flocking to the picturesque valley. Experts warn that the valley is likely to erupt in anger at the government's shock unilateral move once the restrictions are lifted, which could come on the Muslim festival of Eid on Monday.
To the U.S. now, President Trump consoled the victims of the mass shootings in Ohio and Texas. But despite promising a message of unity, he continued to rail at opponents while facing protests that his rhetoric on race has fueled extremism. Now, President Trump flew to El Paso, Texas, where a self-declared white supremacist murdered 22 people last weekend at a Walmart heavily frequented by customers of Hispanic origin. He spent about an hour and a half at a hospital with staff and victims before he and his wife Melania were driven to the city's emergency operations center to meet with police officers.
The hospital said
we had an amazing day. As you know, we left Ohio, and the love, the respect for the office of the presidency, I wish you could have been in there to see it. I wish you could have been in there. And it was no different here. We met with also the doctors, the nurses, the medical staff. They have done an incredible job. Both places, just incredible. And the enthusiasm, the love, the respect, and also the telling me, let's see if we can get something done. And Republicans want to do it, and Democrats want to do it.
But not all residents showed the same enthusiasm for his visit. Protesters in both cities demanded action in gun violence.
I have mixed emotions. I feel like I don't want him here because I don't feel like it's genuine. I feel like he's just doing it out of obligation.
That was the teleprompter Trump that you saw. That was not the rally Trump. The real Trump is the rally Trump. The real Trump is the Trump that wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning in his underwear and tweets to the world. That's the real Trump.
I'm not opposed to him coming here at all, but if he's not going to come here and be serious, then he's wasting his time and our time.
Now, President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania quickly left Dayton for El Paso on Wednesday after visiting privately for 2 hours with hospitalized shooting victims and first responders. After they left, there were conversations with elected officials and hospital visits. Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown and Dayton Mayor Nan Whaley had given a press conference directly after touring Miami Valley Hospital in Dayton with the president.
When I said to him how important it was, if he cares about mental health, the important thing is not to repeal the Affordable Care Act and not to cut Medicaid. That is essential because Medicaid matters so much for people that struggle with mental health issues. The president said we want to give honors and awards to these police officers, and I said, Mr. President, respectfully, in a group of, 20 or 30 or 40 people, respectfully, the most important thing you can do for these police officers is take these assault weapons off the streets so they don't have to go up against those assault weapons when they need to take down a shooter, when they need to make an arrest.
Too often we just see complete inaction because they're waiting just for time for people to forget that 9 people died in Dayton because of a gun that was that shouldn't be legal, frankly. Do I think that we're going to see another mass shooting tomorrow or Friday? Probably, because Washington will not move.
I'm very concerned about a president that divides in his rhetoric and plays to race in his rhetoric and is racist. I remember President Bush, whom I agreed with about very little. He wanted to privatize Social Security. He lied about the Iraq War. But after September 11th, President Bush went to a mosque and said, Muslims didn't attack the United States, terrorists did. President Obama, after the two most awful shootings of all the shootings, Sandy Hook and Charleston, went to comfort them and talked and sang healing language. I wish this president would do that.
But President Trump unleashed first on Twitter, then in person after seeing the press conference on live television. First, he tweeted from Air Force One that the two were totally misrepresenting what had happened in the hospital. The president described the visit as warm, wonderful, with tremendous enthusiasm, even love. Then I saw failed presidential candidate Sherrod Brown, Mayor Whaley, totally misrepresenting what took place inside of the hospital. He continued, their news conference after I left for El Paso was a fraud. It bore no resemblance to what took place with those incredible people that I was so lucky to meet and spend time with.
I get on Air Force One where they do have a lot of televisions. I turn on the television and there they are saying, well, I don't know if it was appropriate for the president to be, et cetera, the same old line. And they're very dishonest people, and that's probably why he got, I think, about 0% and he failed as a presidential candidate. The love in that place and the job that the doctors, nurses, everything.
Kyrgyzstan was on the brink of a full-blown political crisis Thursday after special forces failed to capture the former president during a raid on his compound, which left one officer dead and a police chief in a critical condition. The Central Asian state, which has seen two revolutions in less than 2 decades, has been roiled by a standoff between ex-leader Almazbek Atambayev and his protege turned foe president Soronbay Jeenbekov. Parliament in June stripped Atambayev of his immunity as a former president, and the state prosecutor brought corruption charges against him, moves that supporters of the one-time leader say are politically motivated. Atambayev has ignored police summonses for questioning, and on Wednesday the confrontation escalated when the security service announced an operation to seize him from his compound outside Bishkek, capital of the Muslim-majority nation of 6 million people. On Thursday, Atambayev announced a rally for later in the day in the same area of the capital where his supporters gathered at the start of a popular uprising in 2010. Kyrgyzstan's people will never live on their knees, will not be collective farm sheep, will not be slaves of the ruling clan, he said in a broadcast on the television channel he owns. Atambayev also pledged to release police special forces officers held by his supporters following a night of clashes at his residence in the village of Koitash.
Eagle News will be right back. Stay tuned.
Health is our most important asset, and it should always be a constant.
Welcome back. The Department of Public Works and Highways said the feasibility study of the Inter-Island Bridge connecting 3 major islands in Western Visayas is expected to be completed before 2020. Ana May Lamentillo, chairperson of the Build Interagency Committee, said the DPWH is being very careful in relation to the design and construction of the project given its magnitude. Take a look.
Ito po yung isa sa pinaka, I guess, ambitious na project of this administration, which is the Inter-Island Linkage and the Mega Bridge Program. We are already in the advanced stages of most or a number of this project. The groundbreaking po nung 3.77 Pangil Bay Bridge project was already completed last November 2018. And the feasibility study for the Panay-Guimaras Negros is expected to be completed this year. The study may requirement po kasi for an inter-island bridge, for example, may required na pre-feasibility study, feasibility study, and detailed engineering design. Because of the magnitude of this project, our longest bridge is about 2 kilometers lang, which is times 10 of what we want to achieve for Panay-Guimaras Negros. So we're really very careful as to yung construction and yung design for this particular project. Priority po talaga yung Panay-Guimaras Negros Bridge.
Once completed, the bridge is expected to be another option for traveling across Western Visayas to prevent incidents such as the recent Iloilo-Guimaras Strait Sea mishap that killed 31 people from occurring. The proposed Panay-Guimaras Negros Island Bridges project is undergoing a feasibility study under CCC Highway Consultants Company Limited of the People's Republic of China. Based on the project profile, the 2 proposed bridges are the Panay-Guimaras Bridge, which will start in Leganes, Iloilo, and will end in Buena Vista, Guimaras, and the Guimaras Negros Island Bridge, which will start and end in San Lorenzo, Guimaras, and Palupandan, Negros Occidental, respectively. Some road sections in Guimaras Island have already been developed and paved, now known as the Guimaras Cross Island roads, as part of the preparation for the construction.
Philippine economic growth slowed to 5.5% in the 3 months of June, its slowest pace in more than 4 years, as trade wars took their toll, the government said. As we have anticipated, these have been challenging times, Economic Planning Secretary Ernesto Pernia said, blaming rising protectionism in advanced economies as well as the El Niño dry spell that saw grain production contract. The 5.9% expansion was the country's lowest through 17 quarters. GDP growth in the first 3 months of the year was also at a lower than expected 5.6%, making it more challenging for Manila to attain its full year target of 6 to 7%. With China and the United States, 2 of the Philippines' top trading partners, locked in an escalating trade war since the second half of 2018, Manila's total exports last year shrank by 1.8% to $67.5 billion. First world protectionism was also moderating the performance of Manila's key information technology and business process management sector that serves mainly Western companies and employs millions, Pernia said. Growth in services exports, driven by the business process outsourcing sector, eased to 3.8%, The Philippine Statistics Authority said compared to a 9.7% expansion in the same period last year and double-digit annual growth as late as in 2016. Meanwhile, growth in goods exports slumped to 4.6% in the quarter from 16.1% a year earlier. It is essential for the country to diversify its products and markets, Pernia said, also calling for a push in tourism, which has been largely insulated from the trade wars and other tensions that we have been witnessing. While the El Nino effect on the Philippines was relatively mild this year, Pernia said it had a severe impact on water supply in the capital Manila, where taps ran dry as water impounded in dams shrank. A ban on public works activities ahead of last May's midterm elections and a delay in the passage of this year's government budget had also squeezed government consumption, particularly in construction.
Asian markets rose Thursday on bargain hunting by investors following a week of heavy losses due to anxiety over the deepening U.S.-China trade war. But tensions remained high, prompting a rush on safe haven assets such as bonds, gold, and the Japanese yen. Bond yields plunged on Wednesday with a benchmark U.S. government 10-year note dropping to multi-year lows, while French and German yields, already in negative territory, set new record lows. In Tokyo, the Nikkei gained 0.4% after shedding more than 1,000 points in a 4-day losing streak. But investors stayed away from active buying, with the yen remaining strong, raising worries for Japanese exporters' earnings and the impact on their repatriated profits. Shanghai also climbed 0.9%, enjoying a boost after global index compiler MSCI announced it would increase the weighting of Chinese shares in its indices from 10 to 15% from late August. Hong Kong rose 0.5%, while Seoul added 0.6%. Sydney gained 0.8%, but Singapore dropped 0.6%. European stocks joined the rally as well, with London edging up 0.2% Thursday morning. Frankfurt added 0.8%, while Paris jumped 1.1%. Equities had tumbled Monday after Beijing allowed the yuan to slide sharply against the dollar following U.S. President Trump's announcement that he would impose 10% tariffs on another $300 billion in Chinese goods starting September 1.
Manila Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso on Thursday said he plans to convert Manila into a smart city to better serve his constituents. Mayor Dumagoso said he had a brief meeting with the commercial section of the United States Embassy on the important elements of a smart city, such as an enhanced flood monitoring and prevention, traffic management, and Manila resident ID issuance. Free Wi-Fi service will soon be installed in Manila, particularly in government offices, hospitals, universities, and other key areas in line with the local government's revival plans for the city. Free Wi-Fi can be accessed for 30 minutes per day at the Manila City Hall, Hospital ng Maynila, Tondo Medical Center, Gat Andres Bonifacio Memorial Medical Center, Universidad de Manila, and Museo Pambata. PLDT Smart President and CEO Manny V. Pangilinan, Smart Chief Revenue Officer Alfredo S. Panlilio, and Manila Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso signed a memorandum of agreement at the Manila City Hall on Wednesday.
That is, they can do this. This is not a rocket science technology. So why not build it in Manila? And when I was given an opportunity, that small opportunity, we did that already. This concept of what's going to happen next in the city of Manila, may proper concept na yan. In fact, after putting the Wi-Fi community in the likes of U-belt in the south and U-belt in the east. Kasi we have two U-belt, the south of Manila, west-south, and eastern part of the city towards Quezon City, the Mindoro, Moraita group. Doon namin nilagay yun. At ang naging epekto noon, yung naging epekto, if you adapt technology in governance, sumunod na, nakapagtayo kami ng cameras and CCTVs. Sumunod nun sana, yung emergency assistance program that government will run 24 hours a day with regard to certain services that can be made available 24 hours a day.
Executives of PRB. Thank you.
Samsung unveiled a new generation Galaxy Note large screen handset starting at $950. The Note 10 phablet, which is set for release on August 23, comes in two sizes, with the large beginning at $1,100. The price puts the model at the premium end of a cooling global smartphone market. The Note 10 phablet, which is set for release on August 23, comes in two sizes, as earlier said, the larger beginning at $1,100. The price puts the model at the premium end of a cooling global smartphone market. The latest generation Note was introduced at a media event in New York by DJ Ko, head of IT and mobile communications, who touted it as the world's most powerful mobile device. Samsung's introduction of the first Note some 8 years ago is credited with sparking a phablet trend of large-screen mobile devices that combine capabilities of smartphones with the screen size of tablet computers.
Bobby's able to. I really think they've concentrated right now on the camera, which is like being able to now do those filters and do that bokeh effect on the video is definitely going to be a game changer, because I know other phones like struggle with video, but the Samsung has always been pretty much one of the best for Android video. It makes sense for Samsung because Samsung is already doing DeX, and so being able to combine all that stuff together is going to be a win for both companies, because like the fluidity between going from your computer to your phone is something that Apple already does really well. So be able to have that on the Android Windows side, it kind of just makes sense.
The unveiling of the Note 10 and Note 10 Plus included an on-stage appearance by Microsoft Chief Executive Satya Nadella and an announcement by Samsung that it will be working more closely with the U.S. maker of the Windows operating systems and related software. Microsoft has long worked with companies behind Windows-powered computers or laptops.
As media, we've just been seeing a lot of the 5G adoption, and at least in the U.S., we're seeing the carriers do it and things like that. So just kind of, for Samsung, this is kind of like the second iteration of a 5G device. I think that's just pretty interesting to see how that will move on as,
More news will be coming your way when Eagle News International returns. Stay tuned.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovations, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
Net25 is now available on OSN, the largest entertainment network in the Middle East and North Africa.
Watch your favorite Net25 shows on OSN Channel 725, same day as the Philippines.
Net25 shows live and on demand, anytime, anywhere on any mobile device on OSN Play.
Gwendolyn Dubois Shaw, a professor of the history of art at the University of Pennsylvania, describes novelist Toni Morrison as one of the most important American writers of the last century. Shaw says Morrison's work was deeply impactful for American culture and black writers and artists in general. Admirers who came to look at the portrait of the Nobel laureate at the National Portrait Gallery in Washington pay tribute to her really powerful work. Watch this.
Toni Morrison was certainly one of the most important American writers of the 20th century. I think right up there with William Faulkner and Ernest Hemingway, she probably had the strongest impact on American arts and letters for generations. I think that she has had a really strong impact on American culture in general, but particularly as a kind of beacon, as a guiding stone for many black writers and artists. She showed the kind of work that one could do, really challenging work that could be deeply inspirational and impactful.
I've read a couple of her books. The one that was the most important to me was Song of Solomon. I read that a long time ago when I was young, and it was very powerful. It was a genre that I hadn't typically read, and so from a perspective that I was not totally familiar with as a young white male.
And here's Ben Bernaldez for Sports News.
In tennis, Serena Williams looked solid in her first match since losing the Wimbledon final, defeating 20th ranked Elise Mertens of Belgium 6-3, 6-3 on Wednesday at the WTA Toronto tournament. The 37-year-old American, one crown shy of a record-tying 24th Grand Slam singles title, advanced in 75 minutes at her first US Open hardcourt tune-up event. Also moving into the third round was Japan's Naomi Osaka, the reigning US and Australian Open champion. She won after taking the first set 6-2 when Germany's Tatiana Maria retired with a left abdominal injury. With Osaka's triumph, Australia's Ashley Barty was ensured of being dethroned next week as world number one, although it could be Czech Kristina Pliskova instead of Osaka, who swipes the top spot. Williams ranked 10th, seeks her fourth WTA Canada crown after 2001, 2011, and 2013, and improved her match record at the event to 31-4, winning half the 10 break points she earned against Mertens. Mertens broke for a 2-1 lead, but Williams answered in the sixth game to pull level at 3-3. Next in the path of former world number one will be Russian qualifier Ekaterina Alexandrova, who eliminated China's Zhang Shua 6-4, 6-3. Osaka had not played a match since losing to Yulia Putintseva in the first round at Wimbledon. The victory gives Osaka the inside track on taking the spot in Monday's new rankings. In other sports, Tour de France champion Egan Bernal was given a hero's welcome by around 10,000 people as he returned to his hometown of Zipaquira on Wednesday to celebrate his historic achievement. The pint-sized 22-year-old climber became last month's the first Colombian to win cycling's most prestigious race in only his second participation. Bernal had arrived in Bogota on Monday after competing in a series of European criteriums following his Tour win. He was transferred by a police helicopter the 46 kilometers from the capital to his hometown, but there he shunned an ostentatious parade through Zipaquira in favor of a simple podium on the central square. And while the man he replaced as Tour champion, his Welsh teammate Geraint Thomas, has predicted he will win 10 more Tour titles, Bernal remained humble to his score. He was the third youngest Tour winner in history and the youngest since 1909, leading many to predict a glorious future in which he challenges the record 5 victories of greats such as Jacques Anquetil, Eddie Merckx, Bernard Hinault, and Miguel Indurain. And these are the stories for EN Sports. I'm Ben Bernaldez and I'm 1 with 25.
And we now go to the U.S. where our ABC correspondent Michael Hudson takes us to the Seattle Seafair.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm here at Genesee Park in Seattle, Washington for the 70th annual Seattle Seafair. So every year, this is the location where millions of Washingtonians gather here for entertainment, food, music, hydroplane racing, and yes, you guessed it, the Blue Angels Air Show. So give me a few moments to give you a breakdown of what went on this past weekend at the Seattle Seafair.
The Seattle Seafair first started in 1949. Ever since then, it has been one of the biggest main staples and events in the city of Seattle. As it enters its 70th year, Seafair is a 10-week-long festival featuring over 30 sanctioned events that reach more than 2 million people. The main mission of this activity is to build the community, create memories for families, and provide affordable fun.
There's just a lot of activities to do, a lot of Army recruitments, which is good for future candidates. There's just a lot of stuff to do, and little, I guess, like playgrounds for kids. There's like stuff for everybody to do, regardless of the age.
There is one thing that the Washingtonians love to see at the Seafair every single year, and that's the Blue Angel Air Show.
Yeah, basically it's an air show. They're doing a lot of like fancy maneuvers that are pretty standard for naval aviators. So it's always awesome to just see that in action.
The festival remains a fabric of the community and is made possible with the help of nearly 2,000 volunteers.
So I hope you guys enjoyed the coverage today. Even if you're not from the state of Washington, I hope you have the opportunity to come here during the summer months to check out this wonderful festival. Reporting from Seattle, Washington, I'm Michael Hudson, and I'm 1 with 25.
Thank you, Michael. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards and Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles and we're 1 with 25.